friends, Cherie here. Welcome back to the channel. Well, today I'm here to share with you all some things that I sewed up for charity in the month of October. So in September, if you were here with me, if you saw the video, if not, I'll link to it in the iCards, but I did some charity sewing for Project Dress a Girl, which is an initiative by a fellow YouTuber, Mari Sews. And for October, I wanted to pick another charity to do some charity sewing for. And so since it was Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October, I decided to make some things for an organization that supports women, dealing with breast cancer. So yeah, I thought I would share this project with you as well as this organization in case any of my fellow sewists out there want to do something like this. You don't have to just sew during October, obviously. I sew these during October. It's now the end of October. I have a few more things I want to make, and so I'm not going to ship my box off till the first week in November. They take donations all year long. And they also take donations. The donations don't have to be hand sewn. So if there's anyone watching this and is wanting to support the organization, you can also buy these items and send them in. So let me show you what I'm talking about and talk really quickly about the organization. I'll just say the name and I'll put all the information about the organization in the description box, including the web link in case you want to go off and explore more about. Okay, so let me get the projects. Okay, so our project today are scarves. The organization that I decided to sew for October is called Hop Scarves. The website is hopscarves.org. And they have on their website all the different dimensions and kinds of scarves that they accept for donations. And so you can do rectangular scarves, square scarves. They have all the dimensions in there. And I'm going to quickly just read this. But again, I'm going to have all the information also in the description box, okay? So it says on here, send us 30-inch or larger squares, or if oblong, 17 inches wide. They have to be pre-sewn. For example, they don't want you to just cut strips of fabric and send it to them. They want the edges to be sewn. It says here, lightweight infinity scarves, turbans or caps, and tube scarves, or what's called like the buffs or cowls. And so I'm sending in a variety. I sewed up a couple of large squares, and I'll show you, maybe at the end, I'll just show you all the different ones that I'm sending in. I sewed some rectangular or oblong ones, and then I'm doing some infinity scarves and the little tube scarves, which are basically very similar to the infinity scarves. They're just more snug fit, so you can actually use them to cover your hair or your neck or pull up around your face, right, to protect your mouth and your nose, especially like my son uses that kind of thing, and my husband when they cross-country ski, right, it just keeps their face and their mouth covered so they're not breathing in the cold air. So yeah, and then it has a bunch of things that they don't want: heavy winter scarves, and hand knit scarves, hats, accessories, blankets, and they don't want anything that's damaged or stained, obviously. It looks like they take care about cleaning everything, but I mean, it would be nice to send things that are cleaned. I think they re-clean them, but again, they don't want things that are soiled and stained. And again, this is for women who are currently dealing with the effects of cancer. So we want to be mindful and respectful of that, right? Okay, and then it also has the shipping address. This is an organization based in Louisville, Kentucky. I will also put their address in the description box, but again, I will also put their web link so you can go over and read all about it yourself. Okay, so I always make circle scarves and infinity scarves. Is actually something that I've been selling for years in my handmade shop. And what I tend to do, I've actually shown you guys this already in several videos. I think back in 2021, when I did Vlogmas, I shared a video where I talked about, actually, I think I made or showed you a pattern for making these infinity scarves or circle scarves. Actually, I know a lot of you are new here since then. I had not a lot of subscribers compared to now. And so I will link to that video also in the description box. Vlogmas was a lot of fun, and I shared a lot of ideas, including things that you could sew with some scraps. And so this was one of the projects that I talked about, when you just have like leftover bits of your apparel fabric. And so I tend to do that. So all of these here, these are mine. And these are all made from like the little bits of the fabric that's left over from making my dresses or my tops or whatever. And so, you know, you end up with this like half a yard, 3/4 of a yard, you know, 16 inches of the width of fabric. And a lot of us we just put them on our shelves, and you know, especially if you're primarily an apparel sewer, I mean, it's not enough fabric to make much. And so I've just always, as I've sewn, you know, well, not always, but in probably like the last decade or so, or more, whenever I was sewing with these ITY knits, I would always just sew them up. And I've shared these in videos. Again, I'll link to a bunch of videos in the description box for you all, in case you haven't seen those. But I have a lot of videos where I show you how I style them and what I made it to go with. But yeah, especially here in Minnesota, you know, if I'm making dresses that maybe have a V-neck top, it's nice to have these little scarves. And yeah, they just help keep your chest warm. And I'll put these on in the house instead of like cranking up the heat. To heat the whole house, I just need to warm my neck. And so I'll put these on, and I like to make them where I can double them if I want. But I don't have to always double them then. It kind of replace a necklace when you don't double them. But you'll see in some of the videos that I put up. And I mean, you can make them like really wide so they sit like super chunky. You know, like this was one I made with a dress, and it's kind of like, you know, it's way wider. And so it's just like, these are so cozy. So anyway, we're gonna, this was one of the first ones I made. Actually, I didn't sew with ITY knits a lot. And this was one of the first ones that I made, because I had made a dress with this fabric. This was back when I lived in Michigan. And I had, again, this like odd little amount, and I'm like, I gotta use this. And yeah, I decided to make the circle scarf. So this is like my oldest one. Yeah, love it. It's enough about my scarves. I'm gonna show you the two of the styles of scarves that I made, just to show you how I did them. I mean, you don't really need a like full tutorial, but I'm going to show you how I finished the edges on the rectangular and square scarves that I made. And then the reason why I thought to record this actually is because I just finished up using up the last bit of fabric. Let me get it up. Using the last bit of this fabric here. Well, not the last bit, but it was the last bit of that piece. I had like 2 pieces. And I love this top. Quick and easy. You'll hear about it in another video. But I had just this little length. It was like 14 inches. And so what am I going to do with that? I'm going to turn it into a scarf. Because I also made a cardigan out of that. And so I'm like, you know, I'll use the scarf to layer on that top. Or if I have a t-shirt under the cardigan, I can use that. And I like to ride around the car in those instead of like a bulky coat. You know, just make sure my neck is warm. Then usually I get warm. So yeah, I'm going to actually sew that. I already have it prepped here. We're going to sew this together for those of you who've never, ever made a circle scarf or infinity scarf. And it's basically like a big scrunchie. It's really what it is from a sewing standpoint. You just don't put the elastic in. But anyway, I'm going to show you guys this and the 2 steps that it takes to make it. But again, remember, I will link to in the description box to the video where I shared a pattern. I cannot remember the name of the pattern number, but I'll make sure I search for it while this video is uploading, and I'll put it in the description box, because there is a pattern that I have, and I bought the pattern for something else, but it actually had on it a pattern piece for making one of these circle or infinity scarves. And so that's kind of a nice dimension for you to start with. I just use like whatever the width of the fabric, whatever I have left over, I just straighten the edges and I sew it up. So mine will be thicker or thinner. I'm just using up my scraps. But if you want to make a consistent size, oh, because that's what I wanted to say. These are great Christmas gifts. These are wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Christmas gifts, Mother's Day. Well, Mother's Day is getting a little warm, but if you use a lightweight fabric, depending on where you are, it's wonderful. Friends' birthdays, family members' birthdays, and I make these for little kids all the way up to adults. I make them for men. You use some men's kind of fabric. And so, yeah, it's just a fun way, again, to use up, or like if you shop at places that sell remnant pieces of fabric, those are wonderful ways to use those are wonderful to get, you know, not too expensive, and actually make some really nice one-of-a-kind gifts for folks. All right, let's get this camera turned around. I'm going to show you some of the ones that I've already sewn up. I actually was starting to package them, so I brought a couple to show you, and then we'll sew a little. All right, friends, so first up, I'm going to just show you, this is one of the oblong ones I made. And remember, their one request with the squares, they want them to be at least 30 inches. And then for the rectangular or oblong ones, they want them to be at least 17 inches. Mine finished is 25 inches. So that's great. And it's long. I'm going to insert at the end some pictures because I did take pictures on the mannequin before I package these up. So I'll show you what it looks like. But anyway, this one here, this is a 100% cotton lawn fabric. Zoom in here and I'm going to show you. I just simply turned under the edge and did kind of a faux mitered corner. Then let's zoom in here. I'm going to just show you here. I just went and folded my edges under. I did a double fold and I did a mitered corner. And I just did that on all four corners and just stitched it down. Just using my ironing everything in place and then just stitching it down. And that's it. I mean, there's really nothing special to show about this one. I mean, you're basically just finishing the raw edge. You don't have to do mitered corners. You can just do simple fold under corners. You know, doing two sides first and then rolling it up and pressing a double fold on the other two sides and just stitching everything down really well. And then I was about to use that, but decided not to. I like a mitered corner look. But my sewing machine and a lot of sewing machines now come with the rolled hem foot. And if your machine doesn't come with it, it's usually a foot you can buy as an extra foot. So that's another option for finishing these like really lightweight fabrics, finishing their edges to make a scarf. So that's one style that I did. And again, I did some as squares and some as rectangles. And then the other style I did is basically what I just showed you as my scarves. It's all the different circle scarves. Again, we're going to look at them on the mannequin, but I did them in two sizes. So this one is still wide enough to fold double, and it's like really close to your neck to keep your neck warm. This is another cotton lawn. And then this is a really long one. So again, you cover it twice, but it just drapes lower. And I like these too because, again, like I said, you can kind of have these as like a wrapped around your head and then around your neck. So you're also keeping your head warm as well as your neck warm. And so I just did these in a bunch of different prints, which again, I keep saying you'll see at the end of this video. Here's one more print that I did for the donations, which is beautiful. So we're going to put these aside. Okay, now what we're going to do is just let me move my stuff out of the way, because I just want to show you guys really quickly. So this is just the leftover piece of fabric that I had, and I just, cut the fabric straight into a big rectangle. And then what I'm doing is I have it folded. And then what I have is I have folded it along the width of the fabric. So this is the raw edge over here, right? And I'm just taking raw edge to raw edge. And I'm pinning this together, right sides facing. And I did this all the way along the length of this scarf, which is the width of the fabric, okay? So this fabric was 60 inches wide, okay? And this piece was 30 inches long. So less than a yard of fabric and the full width of the fabric, which was 60 inches. And I have it folded in half along that 60-inch wide edge, okay? And I'm going to sew this. So I'm basically sewing this edge along this long line here. And I'm going to purposely sew this in yellow so you can see it against the black. And see, this is going to stay open. So I'm not sewing this smaller seam. I'm just sewing this longer seam that I have pinned together, okay? So I'm going to go to the sewing machine and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back from the sewing machine. This just goes very quickly. I'm going to just zoom in a little bit so you can see here. This is my stitch line here, this yellow line. See, right sides together. The smaller seam is still open. So basically I've just created a long tube, okay? Let's just go over quickly the little setup that I did on the machine, because sometimes I do get people asking about that. And so I just, I have, I replaced my the regular sewing machine needle with a knit needle. And then I do increase my stitch length a little bit. This is at, I think 2.6, 2.8 millimeters, just a little bit. I go up like the next notch from what's the standard setting. And then I am sewing this together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Often in apparel sewing, the directions will tell you, especially in the big 4 patterns, it'll tell you use a 5/8 inch seam allowance, but then it would tell you to come in and trim this down some. So I just go ahead and just, again, trying to maximize my fabric here, especially when I'm just making things up like this, I will use a 1/2 inch. So that's what this is. The seam allowance on this doesn't matter too much. I don't know if I would on a knit or any of these scarves necessarily sew only a 1/4 inch. I usually reserve that for when I'm quilting, because you're going to be quilting on top of that stitch anyway. And so that's like reinforcing that 1/4 inch and making it a little sturdier. I personally would never sew with less than a 1/2 inch. So yeah, just wanted to mention that. And so now what I'm doing is I'm going to stick my hand, opening up this tube, right? Because that was long tube. So I'm sticking my hand in where the right sides are. All right. And I'm just threading this down my arm. And I'm going to grab hold of this end. And all I'm going to do is basically I'm pulling this through to meet up with this edge. And again, with right sides facing, I'm going to sew this shorter seam, okay? And, this is one of the methods used for sewing a scrunchie. So you're just making a big scrunchie. Now, because it's a little bulkier, I am going to go ahead and open these seams with the thinner fabrics. I use thinner fabrics for the charity sewing because they want lightweight fabrics. I just, had the seams, both seams going in the same direction. But this, with the thicker fabric, I do like to go ahead and open the seam up. Okay, so I have the seam open, the right sides are facing. Okay, and I'm gonna pin this together, or if you're a clip kind of person, use your clips, but line up that center seam. I'm gonna zoom in real good. So we're gonna line up that center seam. It's a little hard to see, but I can feel it with my finger. It's hard to see with this print, okay? I'll zoom back out some. And now I'm just going to go back around. And, you know, if you cut your stuff correctly and you sewed your seams evenly, this should meet up. Now, sometimes these raw edges on knits, you know, they're a little wavy because of just the nature of weaving fabric. And that's fine. But I mean, it should line up. If you have one that's really distorted, you could go ahead and trim that off. Trim the selvage off and then just make it a little easier. And then what I'm going to do, well, I already kind of know. I'm going to leave the seam. I'm going to leave this open between these two. Actually, let's use 2 white. So I remember. So the 2 white ball tip. Oh, that's not white, Sherry. That's yellow. So I'm going to have these 2 pins here with the white ball tips. I'm going to leave this open in between. Again, you can use the same color clips to remind yourself. You can put little snips at your fabric. You can draw a line to remember, whatever you need to do. So I'm going to start here, and then I'm going to sew all the way around the seam here, and then I'm going to stop here, okay? And so you can see here, right sides are together. I'm not sewing all this together flat, okay? It still needs to be, you know, kind of a tube. You just have it folded in half, you see? So I can still stick my arm all the way through here. Still a tube, okay? So I'm going to go to the machine and I'm going to stitch that down, and then I'll be back to show you. And I just want to show you real quick. I have the capability of basically taking off the base of my sewing machine. So I have the little arm here. And so if you have that capability, do that. It will make it a little bit easier. And I'm just getting that lined up, right? And so I'm going to get that lined up, get the pin out, and then we're just going to sew all the way around that opening, that little tube opening, okay? I don't feel like going up and getting my tripod, because this is like a little impromptu. So y'all, because I want to show y'all, I'm doing some one-handed sewing here, so be patient with me while I hold the phone. Don't do this at home. But you get the gist. I'm just going around the circle, and then I'm just, you know, sliding this under as I go until I get to that other needle, okay? This is for me, so if it ends up being a little bit wonky, I'm not gonna be too mad, but I do want to demonstrate this because I feel like if I don't, someone's gonna say, why didn't you show us at the sewing machine? So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. All right. But again, don't do this at home. Use both hands, please. Okay, so that should be back at the, yep. So that's my little opening that I'm gonna leave. You don't wanna leave it too big, but you don't wanna leave it so small that you like stretch your fabric or pop your threads, put too much tension on them when you turn it, okay? So let's get back over to the sewing machine and I'll show you how to finish this up. All right, and I said let's get back to the sewing machine. I meant get back to the cutting table. We were already at the sewing machine. So I'm just deciding to do this and didn't have everything set up over there. So don't have a lot of time. So anyway, here's my opening, right? So again, it's that long tube just folded in half. And now what we're going to do is just stick our hand into that opening and grab the right side and just gently pull that right side out, okay? And then now you have your big infinity or circle scarf, cowl, whatever you want to call it. And, you know, the only thing that I think could trip you up on this is if you accidentally like twist your fabric while your arm, you know, while you're inverting it. That's why I like to keep my arm in there until I do that first pin. Because sometimes if you just do it, you don't realize that you've twisted the fabric. And I mean, a twisted infinity scarf is a thing. Like it just has a knot in the front or yeah, but you know, you don't want that there if that's not your intention. So I've done that a couple times by accident and I left them because they are cute, but you know, that's like, you have to want to do it that way. And then there are a couple things you do. Sometimes I go in here and I'll just, let's zoom in so we can see. Okay. I would go in here and you can slip stitch this closed, you know, just with a needle and thread. I'll do your little whip stitch and get that closed up there. I put my labels in mine. So let me grab a label. Now, if you have labels, you can also, you know, especially if you know people are sensitive to like having like tags, you can, you know, whip stitch that closed and then just kind of hand stitch the label on also. I usually do mine like this. I find wherever the bottom with the, you know, where I stitched, and I make that my bottom of my scarf, which I mean, technically it doesn't matter, but when you put it on, I want that line to be down against my chest and not up against my face. And so I always do that. And then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to come in here. I'll zoom out a little. I'm going to come in here. And what I'm doing is I'm grabbing those two edges like that. Okay. And kind of gripping it together, lining them up. Because I want to stitch, do a very close edge stitch. Just to close that up. So I'm going to stick my pins in and I'm going to leave a space. Usually I do in the middle, towards the middle of the opening, to stick my label in. Okay. And that's just if you have any kind of, you know, some labels, you know, you can't really fold it, right? And if you don't have a label, you could just stitch down this edge close anyway as a way to close it. I'm going to just stick my little label in there real quick. Okay. And put another pin there to hold the label in place. And then I'm just going to go stitch. I'm going to start here, back tack, stitch straight down, pretty close to the edge. Get to the other side of the opening and back tack, and that'll be it. All right, so that's it. Now I'm just kind of getting there. Come off those straight edges. I got a thread hanging off my label for some reason. And again, this is going to be the inside part of the scarf. And if I had planned this out, I would have put on a black top so that you so that you can see a little better, but I'm going to pop this on just to show you what it looks like, even though it totally clashes with my shirt. And then we will look at a bunch of scarves and fabrics on mannequin, on the mannequin as a part of the outro, okay? All right, friends, so let's get this scarf on real quick. So you can see here, there's my little label, right? So that's going to become the inside of the scarf. And then I have my little line here, and I haven't pressed anything. You know, normally I would be pressing my seams open and all that. I'll do that still at the end here. See, just put your scarf on. See, this is what I mean. You can have this as like, you know, when you're out and about, or if you, sometimes you go into places, doctor's office or wherever, just buildings, and it's like cold. It's like too much AC running. And so, you know, you can cover yourself up, look like a fair maiden. Let's put let's push this back a bit. I mean, honestly, you know, these like little, sweaters over your head with like a fabulous coat can totally be a style moment. If you live in a city with a lot of wind, like I know whenever I go to New York City or Chicago in the winter, that wind, even if it's not as cold here as Minneapolis, it's like the wind going down the streets will just like take your breath away. It'll like, it literally has made me cry. And I'm like, it's not even that cold, but the wind. So this is a great way to protect your ears from the cold, to protect your hair from looking like you just went, through a wind tunnel. And then with this width, the width of the fabric, basically, you can do a little double. So see, we're just twisting it here, and the hair is gonna fit a bit more snug, okay? And that's it. Now this looks like just a chunky, you gotta finagle a little bit. I like to have like the top layer a little closer and then the bottom layer a little looser, so it kind of looks more like layered. And now it's like, your neck is warm. Your neck is warm. Like you're good to go. Now, of course, with a lighter weight fabric, you're still protecting your neck, but it's not going to turn into a sauna. Like this will turn into a sauna, which sometimes that's what I need, depending on where I am. And then if you're out, right, it's cold, you can just pull it up. Yeah, super practical. One of my favorite things to make with my, especially knitwear, but any kind of lighter weight cotton, drapey, chalets, things like that also work well. You can't really use I wouldn't use a really thick and stiff fabric, right? That's not gonna look good. But things with drape, things that are lightweight, like these cotton lawns, are wonderful for the non-woven. And like I said, they won't be as hot. And I cut these a little bit differently. But anyway, yeah. All right, that's enough of me talking. I'm going to, it's a little chilly today. I might keep this on. I'm gonna go now, get this onto the mannequin. Yeah, shoot a picture for you guys. And then, like I said, at the end of this, coming up next, you're gonna see images of the scarves that I'm gonna be mailing off tomorrow to hopescarves.org. And remember, look in the description box. I'll have a link to the website. I'll have their address maybe in there, or I'll just put a link to the website, to that page. And that one page has all the information that I read at the beginning of the video. It's all on that page, okay? And again, I will also link to my previous videos where I made and showcase variations of the scarf and for the pattern, for those of you who want to work from like a set pattern with set dimensions. All right, guys, let me get this off. It's like up in here having a hot flash from a scarf. All right, I'm gonna go. I'll see you guys back here again soon. Take good care. Oh, before I go, I'm gonna be doing, so after I send this box, I'm gonna start working on items to send to the charity that I chose for November. And if you want me to record a tutorial, let me know in the comments. And I'll record that so that when I share those makes with you, I can also have a tutorial ready for you. Because this is something, again, which, I'm probably not going to make again for a while. I'm making it specifically for this charity. So if you want to see it as a tutorial, let me know. All right. Take good care. Bye.
Morning has broken, my windows are open. Wanna feel the wind blow through my hair. Which way do I follow? What happens tomorrow? I turn to you and hope you can guide the way. Sometimes I give up, just wanna be on my own. Even in the darkest times, you give me hope. So